IFF TV podcast.
Hello and welcome to Irish Football Fan TV. This is the Euro 2020, 2021 if you want. Watch along, Spain versus Sweden. I'm joined by Gary and Jared Brown. So, I suppose, Gary, Mr. Spain himself, who are you cheering for tonight?
Despite my surname and the land of my ancestors, I'm pretty neutral, Paul. I'm just hoping for a good game, really. I don't really cheer for any other country apart from my own, so just hoping for a good game and just interested in the whole tournament in general without having any kind of real partisan alliances or anything like that, you know.
What about you, Jer?
I'm actually going to go on like Gary. I'm not going to sit in the fence here. I'm going to go for Sweden because they're the same colours as my county Roscommon. As anyone who follows me or friends me in Snapchat and know my bit emoji, I have a Sweden jersey on it to be the closest representation of a Roscommon jersey. But no, in all seriousness, I'm the same as Gary. I probably tipped these two teams before a ball was kicked to get out of this group. I definitely think it now after that Slovakia result, although they could be a surprise package, so who knows. But it should be a good game. Spain, I know they're in transition, but you still look at that team, it's still a fairly strong, decent team. Like, obviously from my bias side, from a Liverpool fan, I even see someone like Thiago who ended the season strongly on the bench. Adama Traore. And Sweden, they had a good World Cup a couple of years ago. Got to a quarter-finals. A couple of good players. Isaac off the back of a good season. Real Sostad, Voisberg, who's shown glimpses down through the years of Leipzig, and obviously someone like Lindelof would be very familiar with United. Larson as well from his time in the Premier League. Should be a good game. I'm going to go all out and I'm going to say 3-1 Spain.
Ooh. I actually want Sweden to win because I just seen there Robin Olsen, who was obviously on loan at Everton last season, is playing for him, so just want to see him do well. Don't actually really care about the result, quite neutral in this case. I do have Isaac in my Euro 2020 fantasy team, so a couple of goals for him could be good. But then again, I do have two Spanish defenders in my team. I don't even know who they are, but I just know they're Spanish. Azpilicueta was one, and then the other one was
But he's not starting, so.
I know, yeah, no points for me.
Yeah.
But look, if Isaac scores,
that's it, yeah. Or if a Spanish player defender goes off injured early, Asper comes on before the half-hour mark, so could get his clean sheet. If it works, I'm not sure. I don't do the fantasy for this, but is it the same as the Premier League?
Kinda. I have I have Laporte as the other one. He's not playing either.
I think Laporte is playing, is it?
Is he? Hang on a sec.
I think I'm certain I've seen him in the starting team.
Seems to be a problem with the nets as well. I see they're having some issues there.
Oh, we had that issue at Steadfast on Saturday as well. So it happens at grassroots too.
I did actually find it quite comical, and it's just this entire RT.
Laporte is starting, sorry.
Yeah, I found it quite comical as well in RT. When they were going, when Liam Bray is going through the Spanish team beforehand, he's on about the Spanish fullback Llorente saying, "Oh, he's have to come off the back of a good season with Leeds." But I see that's Marcus Llorente, of course, as I well know as a Liverpool fan. He scored for Atletico Madrid in that game at Anfield last year. So Liam Bray might want to touch up in his research of the Spanish team.
He's been getting a lot of stick recently of some of the stuff he said over the last couple of days on Twitter.
I heard he was meant to be very bad. I think I didn't watch the Austria-North Macedonia game live yesterday, but I think he was meant to be saying, "Oh, I don't really know much about the Austrian team because I don't watch much Bundesliga, as they have a lot of players obviously playing there."
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, what he's done in the game speaks for itself. Whether he's a pundit that should be, on watching and doing his research or whatever. Maybe if he's getting paid so much, he should be doing a bit more. I don't know, but when he's actually analysing the games and stuff like that, I do think he's quite good. But when he's talking about players before the game and stuff like that, maybe not so much.
Yeah, I think Duff has been brilliant from that kind of side of things. Just from pre-match when he's going through different teams and all about the different players they have, I think he's absolutely fantastic. Obviously, he will know quite a few players and teams with tournament even from his brief spell involved in Ireland. But then even you hear him the other day, like when he was doing his coaching badges, he was studying Denmark as part of that, like, so he knew a lot about them. Like, so I think someone like him has been a revelation so far in the RT panel.
Yeah, I think you know what you're going to get with Duff. He's very clever, and he's played at the top. He's coached with Celtic. He's coached with Ireland. He could go on to other things if he really wanted to as well. So I think Duff he's in that kind of bracket anyway.
Duffer's a real student of the game, I think, the tactics and everything like that. I think he's a massive loss to Ireland, actually. But, and you can see that in his punditry as well. It'll be interesting to see when where he does rock up next. I know he's doing some coaching at Shells and stuff like that, but I wouldn't be surprised if he becomes a top coach. Certainly from his analysis and his kind of football brain, he's really impressive.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And of all the coaches that we have, maybe of all the players, maybe himself and Lee Carsley are probably the most highly regarded. Obviously, Carsley is now appointed the under-21 manager of England, having offered his services to Ireland.
Yeah, they definitely one that got away. I think that's been flagged for a while, unfortunately.
One that was forced away. Spain in the ascendancy here, eh?
I've seen this game. I've seen this game's been moved to Seville. Obviously, apart from Dublin losing games, what was the scenario reason behind the Bilbao lost their matches?
So Bilbao was always actually a really, really strange one. I actually was always fascinated by Spain playing there because in the Basque country, as many people will know, they really have their own separate identity, and there wouldn't be a huge amount of support for Spain. And Spain never play games. It's like you never see Spain really playing games in Bilbao and San Sebastian, or indeed in Barcelona, in the Catalan areas. So it was a bit strange that they even applied for it and got the games. But the local regional Basque government imposed very strict rules. And UEFA, like for Dublin, were insisting on having at least 25% capacity. So it seemed like the Basque government in the end weren't that keen on hosting Spain, and they just let them go. But the Spanish Federation then basically agreed to or wanted to keep the games in Spain. So they've moved them with UEFA's permission, obviously, to this. And it's not even one of the stadiums for either of the Sevilla's clubs. It's their Olympic stadium. I think that's where Celtic actually played the UEFA Cup final in against Porto in 2003. But the stadium is not being used for any of the games. For any club games or anything like that. So it's rarely used. I don't think it's actually that popular in Spain. I haven't been to it, but I think fans are upset that you're so far away. And even just looking on TV, you do seem to be a long way away, particularly when you're behind the goals. And it's a real shame because they have two fantastic stadiums in Seville for Sevilla and Real Betis. And you're close to the pitch. There's a fantastic atmosphere. You may not remember, lads, because you're too young, but particularly when we played there in the late 80s and the early 90s, Spain used to play nearly all their games in Seville. It was considered to be a lucky city. They're really passionate. Unlike the Basques, the Andalusians consider themselves to be really, really Spanish, and more Spanish even than the rest of Spain, and they're really passionate fans. And it was actually an experience to be there when Spain were playing, and but it doesn't look like it's going to be that spectacular tonight. With the stadium looks to be almost empty, and I know for a fact there were actually loads of tickets available for this game, despite the fact that the capacity was restricted.
Well, there you go. There's a little bit of a history lesson there.
Good insight there. Yeah.
I'm just going to run through some comments quickly. Margot Gregson says, hello for BC Canada. Hi, Margot. How are you? Hope you're keeping well. Donna Canolan says, Spain 2, Sweden 0. That's what he thinks. John O'Neill says, what do you think of the Scotland keeper coming so far forward today? I don't think that was his fault. I think that was actually the lad Hendry who took the shot off in just an area which he could have or probably should have just given it out to the wide man and got back into position. Yeah, they got a lucky break.
It was a brilliant finish, but the keeper was I think he was too far out. He didn't need to be that far off his line. I don't know. I would
expecting it. Like it was
Yeah.
the ball broke very lucky for him. In fairness,
Yeah, I know it broke lucky in it, but I mean it was an amazing finish. But I would be somewhat critical of the keeper for that.
I wouldn't, but opinions are.
Yeah, I'd be on Paul's opinion here. I think like it's one of them. He's not expecting to happen. What happened? Like you say, like when Hendry has the ball, you're not expecting it, like it's going to be within a matter of seconds. The ball's going to be flying over your head. As Paul said, he probably should have laid the ball out to the right. I'm not sure who was there. I presume it was probably the fullback or wing back O'Donnell. Like, but have to give full credit to the Czech Republic striker, the Bayern Munich lad. Took an absolute unbelievable finish from just inside his half. But in fairness to Marshall, like he had a fairly good game with that. He made a lot of good saves, and only for him, it could have actually been 3 or 4-0 Czech Republic.
And their keeper made great saves as well.
Yeah, it was a good game in fairness.
3 or 4 really good saves. One from Dykes with his foot. The one that stands out to me the most. And they obviously hit the crossbar as well.
Yeah, Robinson the first half as well.
Yeah, so they had Scotland had the chances, but
big time. Yeah,
sometimes you have to give credit for a really fantastic finish. With that goal was. I mean, if you look at the replay, the bend on it as well. Gary just likes to be critical to goalkeepers. Were you that critical of Mark Travers? I don't remember you being that critical of him.
I don't think. Well, there'd be some more support of our own, you know.
No consistency there, Gary.
That's.
You could probably say the same because I was probably saying that Travers was at fault for the goal.
Oh well.
But literally, the way it happened, it was in a matter of seconds. He takes a shot, hits the defender's shin or something, bounces right back, and then boom, he shoots first time. I actually thought he had hit it too far. I was watching it live at the time, and I thought he had hit it too far. But obviously it went in. It was a brilliant finish in the end. Obviously the keeper got tangled in the net. John says, I was in Madrid, Spain in 1998 when they won, and they were celebrating on the streets all night. Well past.
I think he means 2008. I think he means, is it?
Or does it mean when Real Madrid won the Champions League in '98?
France won it in '98 anyway. The World Cup. Christopher Scully says, "How's it going? Hi, Christopher. How are you?" Then John says, "I hope you are doing a watch along for the Hungary versus Portugal game tomorrow." I don't think we are. I don't see why that would be the pick of the games you would want us to do. Anyway, I have football training tomorrow, so I don't think that'll be happening.
I'll tell you what, in my opinion, why it could be the pick of the games is it's going to have a full house. In that the Budapest Stadium is the only one for the Euros that's allowing 100% attendance, and I mean, I still find watching them that okay, it's great that there's some fans in, but it still looks a bit flat. Whereas I'm expecting it to be absolutely rocking in Budapest tomorrow night, especially with Hungary at home. And if they can put on, they'll have 50,000 fans behind them, and it should be a really, really great atmosphere. And I think that'll come across well on the TV as well. So it's actually a game I'm looking forward to as well.
What are you going to do? A watch along with Paul Tierney for?
So, yeah, sure. I'll talk to Paul and see.
All right, no worries. Well, there you go, John. If you want Gary and Paul to do it, you make sure you hound them now.
Or he can join Gary as well if you want.
Well, you have to have good Wi-Fi over in the Canary Islands because that's what he's talking about now. I have been to the Canary Islands and it's the same, and I wish in that way they wish to be recognised as separate from Spain. There's an area in northern Spain area, they have aspects of Celtic culture practiced there, such as bagpipes and plaid clothing. And then I think he's talking about the keeper. He says, but he wasn't even vulnerable to the possibility of a more conventional type of goal as well. I don't know what you mean by that. But
as in probably that they would have broke on the counter-attack as such.
Yeah, but that's probably why he was staying high, just in case.
Yeah.
Cahill says you can't blame the goalkeeper for that, so he's in agreement with myself and yourself, Jer. And then he says, It was 1998 for sure, but I could recall exactly which they won. But the point is, their celebration was very impressive to me. I could not. He says could not. So could not recall exactly what they won.
Well,
I don't
they
know.
bombed out. They bombed out in the World Cup in '98.
Unless he
At the
means Real
time,
Madrid. They won the
I think it
Champions
could be
League that
Real.
year.
Yeah, Real Madrid
Yeah.
won the. Yeah.
Must be.
We dived into a very, very, almost nearly heated political and history debate there for a second, going through the comments.
I actually I didn't know that about the Canary Islands. I didn't know they wanted their independence. I'm well aware of the Basques and the Catalans, and I actually don't know what area that is in northern Spain either, with the bagpipes and the Celtic heritage. I know the Galicians have kind of some links to Ireland. I've never been, the area around La Coruña. Michelle's played Depor there in 2004, wasn't it? But I know that area would have some links to Ireland, all right, but I didn't think it was that close,
Yeah. There hasn't been much no. But what have you made of the tournament so far? I know. Look, obviously the huge talking point was what happened with Eriksen, but I mean, we might come to that as well. But from a football point of view, Gary, have you enjoyed the tournament so far? I think the pick of the games was probably last night, the Netherlands game.
Yeah, I've definitely enjoyed the tournament, but I love these tournaments anyway, and I think there's some good football. Yeah, obviously last night's game was superb. Even the first half, which was scoreless, was still a very entertaining game of football. But the second half was a cracker, and some surprise results. I thought North Macedonia did really well. Ultimately did lose to those late goals. Slovakia were hugely impressive in beating Poland today. That certainly shocked me. Who else? Italy, one of my dark horses from the start. They impressed against Turkey, and we'll have to talk about England because the hype is starting to come already. And in fairness, it was an impressive win to beat Croatia, but there is a long way to go yet.
And Jer?
Yeah, I think overall in general it's been a fairly good tournament. I was obviously fairly busy enough over the weekend, so I've kind of mainly just been watching highlights. So today was kind of the first day I sit down and got a good chance and I watch all the games live. And yeah, it's been a fairly kind of good tournament so far. The only game that's kind of stood out to me so far at this point was just the Wales-Switzerland game. I think maybe just because it had very, very small capacity. I had the running track and back, it just created no atmosphere, and it was quite a bore was. But I agree with kind of Gary, and I agree with yourself. I thought the Netherlands-Ukraine match last night, which I actually did sit down to watch live, was a brilliant game. From the bits I've seen, I was very impressed with Belgium against Russia, and expect a comfortable victory there. And Gary on about England, yeah, I thought they were very comfortable themselves yesterday, but I'm not surprised. It's not the same Croatia team as 3 years ago. I think the results have shown since that World Cup, I think that golden generation has kind of surpassed them. So I touched on there earlier, I thought Scotland, Czech Republic was a good game. I thought Scotland gave it the right to go, maybe just lacked a little bit of quality up front. Yeah. And yeah, same as Gary's, thought North Macedonia unlucky against Austria. Very surprised result for Slovakia today against Poland, and also as well, obviously, because it was totally over-tragic by the Eriksen situation, but it's also a surprise victory for Finland against their Nordic neighbours, Denmark.
Yeah, it's been like over the weekend I didn't get a chance to sit down and watch any games until yesterday. Because I stayed up and watched the UFC on Saturday night, and I actually fell asleep for the main event, but I got most of it, so I was up quite late, so I was catching up on sleep during the day yesterday, and I suppose last night as well. So actually I got to watch the England game. I didn't fall asleep for that. I got to watch the late game as well because I woke up for that, but the Macedonia game I fell asleep for that game. It was on, but it wasn't because the football was boring or anything like that. I was just tired. But yeah, like any of the games that I have sat down and watched, I watched up until the second goal went in for Czech Republic earlier, and I had to go to the gym then, so I was just booked in for the gym. Otherwise, I would have watched the whole thing of that. And I thought Scotland were unlucky. They had about 4 really good chances, really good saves by the keeper. I think the keeper won the game for. Oh, it was a great save.
Great save. Yeah.
I thought Scotland were unlucky. The keeper, I think, won the game for Czech Republic today, and Scotland probably feel like that was the game that they probably could have won out of them all, and maybe tried to get a draw against the other sides there. But I think if they wanted to go any further in the competition, they probably should have got that win today. And I would say in some cases they were unlucky, but you have to create your own luck sometimes as well. But look, I hope they go, and I hope they actually. I actually hope they turn England over. I think that would be great. I think everybody would love to see that. But I think the Scottish are quite similar to us, aren't they? Especially like Celtic fans and stuff like that. Maybe not the other side of Glasgow, but I think they're quite similar to us as the kind of the way they handle themselves and stuff like that. And I think most people like the Scots in that sense. So I kind of wanted to see them just do well, just because of that, really. And they're close enough to us, So obviously, I'd like to see someone do it like them do well,
Yeah, the Tartan Army are fantastic. They're brilliant supporters and travelling huge numbers. Probably drink a little bit too much as well, but I don't think the Irish fans can be critical about that. But there's never any problems, any trouble or anything like that. They're just very well behaved, if just a little bit too drunk or something like that. But I was sorry to see them lose, but excuse me. But I think they're actually a limited enough side. I don't expect Scotland to come out of the group or anything like that. They're just not good enough. I think they've done incredibly well to get there, and it's probably just down to one brilliant performance away to Serbia in the playoffs.
I think they're quite similar to us, but a little bit better.
I'm not, maybe a little bit better. I'm not even sure they're that much better,
Well,
they'll probably actually
have that a little bit extra.
We don't have a top player in our squad at all.
Yeah. Okay.
Like
I'm not being critical saying that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, we don't. We have Caoimhín Kelleher at Liverpool. You could say, although he's not in the regular first 11.
Yeah, I think
he's not in the first 11. Okay.
But I think
they have a lot of ordinary players as well.
Yeah, but I think in fairness to Scotland as well, like Kieran Tierney was a big loss to them today. I know obviously he wouldn't have probably played in his natural position, but would have played maybe in the left and midfield. But I do think they still have a little bit more individual quality. Like Scott McTominay, I think John McGinn would walk into our team as well, to be brutally honest. But where they have the same limitations as us, I think was shown up today up front. I thought Lyndon Dykes tried his heart out and gave it absolutely socks off when he came on. But I know you were saying the Czech Republic keeper made a good save, but for me that has to go in. Like, he has to bury that chance for me as well. I thought Che Adams was really disappointing, and I thought like their subs as well. Callum McGregor never got into the game. Ryan Fraser never got into the game, so they still do lack going forward, and you can see why it probably took 2 penalty shootouts as to why they actually got to this tournament.
Yeah, I mean, I take what you're saying. I just think that they do have better players than us at the moment.
Yeah.
That's not to say in a couple of years we won't have better again. And I think it's the first time in my following of football that they've had a better, pool of players, and Wales as well. I don't think Wales have as much of a better pool, to be honest. I just think that they use their team well a bit more than us at the minute, but we're kind of in a transition if we're comparing. But look, I hope Scotland and Wales do well, and I know that when we are in tournaments that they like to see us do well. So that's basically what I was saying, that I just want to see them go as far as they can, hopefully take points off England, and everyone would be happy there. I think that would be, even if they go out, I think they'd be happy just taking points off England,
So you're a bit like Boris Johnson there, Paul, wishing 2 of the UK sides well, not all 3. I think Boris made a mistake. Boris said best of luck to England and Scotland. He forgot about the Welsh. It went down very, very badly in Wales. But I think that was just a mistake. I think Paul actually means it.
You think he'd forget about him? I thought he might have left out Scotland, considering they did try and get independence from the UK. But that's an interesting one, all right. Just maybe one for yourself, actually, Gary, as well, because this is probably a strange experience for yourself, being at home for a major tournament. Because even when we're not at tournament, you obviously still get over to them, which is unbelievable, and have, I think, the rest of us in the team in jealousy and stuff like that. So do you find it kind of, obviously for understandable circumstances,
more envy than jealousy, I think?
Yeah, with a combination of both. But It obviously is a strange experience for you that you are here sitting on the sofa compared to actually being over there, like,
Yeah, and
or well,
it
all over
really
Europe in this
hit.
case.
Yeah, it really hit home to me today, actually, for Poland, Slovakia, because, well, obviously it could have been us, right? And I mean, obviously, very disappointed we didn't make it, but I was going to that game come hell or high
Same as
water,
well,
because
yeah.
I said, right, even I had tickets for the Aviva, and even if it wasn't us, I was still going. And so it was kind of doubly disappointing to actually just be sitting on the sofa, and kind of at 5 o'clock today, it kind of really hit home to me that I should have been at that game. And if it wasn't the Aviva, even if it was with 13,000, I would have been scrambling. I don't know whether my tickets, obviously all these tickets ended up in ballots, but I would have been very much trying to get in, no doubt, along with 50,000 Poles living here trying to get into the game. But I don't think there was huge demand. I do know loads of people that had tickets, and as soon as UEFA gave them the chance to sell them back in January, when it still looked like the game was in Dublin, I think nearly everyone sold theirs back. Yeah, and most of the Irish fans did. I was one of the few that held on to them, but of course, there's no way I could go to St. Petersburg. But it would have been. It did feel kind of strange today. I kind of felt I should have been at that match. And actually, I was hoping to go to Spain, Poland as well on Saturday. I actually had a ticket for that in Bilbao, and I had to give that back as well, because that was one I was actually really looking forward to. As I was saying, it's part of it is that's gone anyway, and that Spain aren't playing in Bilbao anymore, so it's not the same. But I wanted to see the reaction from the Basques and how they treat Spain playing. I actually can tell a quick story in that when Limerick played about 7 years ago, we played pre-season games in February, I think it was 2014, in the Basque Country. We played Athletic Bilbao B and SD Amor-Brieta. And I was the only fan actually that travelled, and out there I ended up with the Limerick management team and having drinks and everything with the host clubs. I remember chatting to the Athletic Bilbao guys, who would be really, I mean, they only hire Basque players, and they're very strong Basques. I remember asking, I said, look, what would the situation be? Would Spain be welcome to play a home game? I said, would Spain be welcome to play in the San Mames, to play in Bilbao? And he said, oh yeah, absolutely. He says they'd be very welcome to play away to Euskadi, which meant away to the Basque Country. And he just couldn't comprehend the fact that they didn't want Spain playing in the Basque Country. He didn't really support Spain, didn't really cheer against them, they were saying. And I mean, they obviously have players in the squads from time to time, but they didn't feel very Spanish, and just felt Basque. And I'm not going to get into the whole politics of the independence movements, because I know that's going on in the Basque Country and in Catalonia. And I know Spain rarely play in Barcelona. I know we played there, but that's way back in the 30s and the 40s. But I can't remember the last time Spain played a home game in the Basque Country or in Catalonia. Maybe someone can, in the comments, can check it out, or I can check it out later on. But certainly
John
I
O'Neill
can't.
is hocking the comments out anyway.
All right, does John know when it was? But it's certainly, if you normally look at where Spain play their home games, they do. As I said, they play a lot in Seville. They love to go to the likes of Valencia, which is a real hotbed of Spanish support as well. Obviously in Madrid. They have played a couple in the Canary Islands, and they've gone to places like Zaragoza. I'm just thinking of Albacete has hosted games. Few places around the country. They've played home games actually in the Balearics in Mallorca as well. But they don't tend to go to the Basque Country or to Barcelona, just because I suppose the support could be a bit dubious there. So that's why I was very surprised that they originally applied for games in Bilbao, and I would have been fascinated to see it, but obviously it never happened.
All right, well, we'll fly through some of John's comments because he's the only one getting comments in. He said, just to carry on from earlier point, he says, I should say some, not all, in the Canary Islands would like some sort of independence. Do you have a pick to win the Euros? Gary, do you? I don't.
Well, I was saying actually in my 3 talking points, the obvious one, and I think they will win it, is France. I think they just look so strong and so good. The dark horse I had, and I did say it before Friday night, is Italy. I think Italy are a team that's coming into form in this tournament. Now, if things go to plan and they both win their groups, they're scheduled to meet in the semi-final. And I know Belgium in that half of the draw as well. So it's a pretty stacked half of the draw. But I would see the winner coming from, if not France, then possibly Italy. And Italy in tournaments are always very difficult to beat.
Jer, yourself, do you have a pick?
Yeah, I'd be the same as Gary. I'd be going along with France as my favourites. The only thing is, like, seeing the rumbles last week of, I think, disruptions between the likes of Giroud and Mbappe, and France have been known for falls out of major tournaments. But other than that, like, quality-wise, I don't see any reason why they shouldn't win it. I hate to use the term dark horse to describe Italy because, like, for me, when you think about dark horse, you're kind of like, oh, there might actually be a surprise pack in the tournament. I think Italy are full-on genuine contenders for this tournament. I think they could go really, really deep. As Gary says, well, they mightn't have many superstars, but they have a good blend, they have a good manager, they're in fantastic form as well. And I just expect a really good kick from Belgium this tournament as well, because I think it's the last chance for this golden generation. And they've started really, really well. And I think if they're going to do well in this tournament, they need Lukaku to score goals. At a good World Cup, he's hit the ground running. So for me, I think they're the 3 teams. Now, I know Gary said they could all possibly end up on the same side of the draw, but for me, they would be my 3 favourites.
The caveat I would have, I'm not as convinced about Belgium. I know what you're saying, Jared. They've got some fantastic players, and Lukaku is in unbelievable form. I just feel they've got a bit older and they're not as convincing at the back. They weren't even that convincing at the back in 2016 or 2018.
Well,
and I just think that golden generation... I think that golden generation may have just passed them by. And the other thing that's, for me, is against Belgium is, assuming they win their group and Italy win the group, which I think will actually happen, they're scheduled to meet in the quarterfinals. So for Belgium, and then with France probably awaiting in the semi-final, I just think that's probably too big an ask for Belgium to beat Italy, beat France. I know these things don't always work out to plan, but for Belgium to beat Italy and then beat France and then still have a final to play, I think it just might be too much for them. Now, I know I'm saying Italy to beat Belgium and then possibly to beat France as well. But if it goes to plan, I see a France-Italy semi-final, and the winners of that will be hot favourites.
Do you not think that England deserve a shout, like, realistically?
I don't think they're good enough to win it. I wouldn't rule them. I wouldn't rule them out. They have home advantage, and again, if they win the group, they only have to play 1 game out of Wembley. But the problem they have is if they win the group, they're playing the runners-up of France, Germany, or Portugal, and even in Wembley, that's going to be a really, really tough game. If they win that, they go to Rome to face the win. Probably the winners would be the winners of this group more than likely, which is likely to be Spain. So to even get to a semi-final, England need to beat, if you like, Germany or Portugal, albeit at Wembley, and then go to Rome and beat Spain. And I don't think they're that good. I know there's the hype in the Premier League and all that, and they were impressive yesterday. So it wouldn't surprise me if they have a very good tournament. But I just don't think the quality is there to actually go and win. Probably need to win 4 huge games. They've been a bit unlucky in the draw, actually.
Yeah, I think France have probably the best squad. I'd probably pick them to win it if I had to choose someone. But I think England, you can't rule them out. I think they'll get stronger as the tournament goes on. Then you've got Portugal as well. I don't even think Portugal, Germany, France, or any of them have even played. It's tomorrow, isn't it?
Yeah, that's tomorrow night, yeah.
Yeah, I actually have Mbappe as my captain in that Euro fantasy thing, so hoping he gets a few goals and breaks a few German hearts tomorrow.
Definitely think as well a factor for England, as Gary touched on. Like, it's basically the equivalent of Euro '96. It basically is as good as a home tournament for them. If like they top the group, which I think you can't go into looking at like all finishing second to avoid top teams because you're just getting yourself into ridiculous scenarios. Like, I think they will go out to top the group. I know you were saying they were quite impressive yesterday, Gary, but I don't want to be totally dismissive, but I think that was an expected kind of routine victory. I think this Czech-Croatia team are kind of gone past, and I think there's no doubt about it. They have the quality going forward, but maybe as you were kind of pointing out with Belgium, I think defensively they're still a little bit unsure. I know Maguire still has to come back in. I know before the game yesterday, some people questioned Southgate's team selection. It worked wonders. Calvin Phillips was meant to be excellent. Sterling got the goal. Trippier, again, I only seen the highlights. I don't know how he worked out at left back, but there's no way about it. They definitely belong in the shake-up as a team that can go deep in this competition. And they could, it wouldn't be a major surprise if it to win it, but I don't think they will win it.
Foden hit the post as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I thought actually Calvin Phillips had a superb game.
It's meant to be excellent by midfield, yeah.
Who was a really strange choice by Southgate, but certainly proved to be an excellent one. And Jordan Henderson is going to struggle to get back in the team. I don't think how he can get back in the team actually, if he's even if he's fully fit. Harry Maguire would definitely help them. I was amazed by Trippier, and I'm not convinced. I think he has two fine left backs in Luke Shaw and Ben Chilwell. And I don't know how they feel. I mean, Trippier is a fine player, but he's a right back. I actually I wasn't that impressed with Kyle Walker. I thought he had a poor game.
He was hopeless.
Yeah, but yeah, and Harry Kane wasn't that hot either, but he could still find form. Obviously, I just wonder if he's fully 100% fit as well. There have been injury issues there in the last couple of months. But the likes of Phillips was superb. Foden is a quality player, and I thought he had a really good game. Sterling, again, probably someone who hasn't had a good second half of the season with Man City. I thought he obviously got the goal. He played really well as well. So there is a lot of quality there, but I just don't see them being as good as a France or in Italy, and particularly with the tough draw as well. It's going to be very difficult, but home advantage, you mentioned Euro 96, Ger, and they came so close. The penalty shootout against Germany. Gareth Southgate, of course, missing. But I think they would have won the final against the Czechs had they won that penalty shootout. And you never know. I mean, the country is just going to go absolutely nuts for the next month and everything. I was only just chatting to a friend of mine here. He's a big Irish fan, season ticket holder, goes to a lot of the games, and he was just telling me his wife is English, and his son is getting very influenced by Gareth Southgate, and football's coming home, and he's getting a little bit worried about who where the son's allegiances will lie. But
he's obviously still of a tender age, is he?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, he would be reasonably young. Yeah, he's a bit younger than me, and so I presume his son is a bit younger than my kids as well.
As long as he doesn't get Rice 4 on the back or whatever,
or doesn't end up like him about the sounds of things, the way things are going.
Yeah, but there are.
we need to get him the Aviva quick.
Yeah. There are actually, quite a few English fans here as well. One of the
I work with one, like, so yeah.
Yeah, one of the guys involved.
Team was at it. One of the lads off the team, off Steadfast, was at the game yesterday.
Right. One of the big Limerick fans, he's now one of the head stewards of Treaty United, Steve. He's originally from Blackburn, and he's a big England fan. Always gets a lot of slagging at games and everything as well. And another weird one, actually, in 2006, I went to, as you know, guys have said, I go to a lot of the tournaments. In the 2006 World Cup, I actually made 4 trips from here, and I was based near Frankfurt train station. And there's an Irish bar across the road from the train station. I think it's called Paddy O'Reilly's. It's O'Reilly's bar anyway in Frankfurt. And I was in there the night before England played Trinidad and Tobago, which was on about 2 hours down the road in Nuremberg. And I walked in, I was the only one in the pub actually wearing an Irish jersey. And the pub was actually about 300 people mobbed, and everyone was English, all in England shirts. And it was all good-natured and got on grand and had a good night. But one guy comes up to me in an England shirt in an absolutely broad Kerry accent. And he says, oh yeah, I says, what the hell? And he says, I'm from Tralee. He says, I was born in Kerry. At 4, my parents moved to London. And at 16, they moved back. But he says, I've been in school, and he says I became an England fan. And even back in 2006, now this guy was well into his 30s, I'd say, if not 40. And he'd been travelling from Kerry to follow England and gone to the World Cup and everything like that. So, yeah, you'd be surprised where they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
I wonder how that went down
in our
Tralee.
group chat anyway about England. So.
Apparently, he's well known in Tralee. But
I'd say he stands out in Tralee anyway.
I'd say he gets a few black guys
Even though it's a fair size of a town, Tralee.
Yeah.
But I suppose, Sweden are really struggling to get out of their own half here.
Yes,
Other than the
Spain
corner,
really
They had a corner there, all right. Yeah.
The pitch seems to be cutting up a small little bit early on, which is very strange.
Yeah, it's. I know the Spanish aren't happy at all with that stadium, the pitch in general. It's a lot of their fans. Maybe it explains the tiny attendance. I know it's limited. It's limited attendance, but even still, I was on the UEFA portal and there's any amount of tickets available for that game. So you'd think Spain at home in the Euros. Can you imagine if we were playing Sweden in the Aviva and the attendance was limited to 13,000? There wouldn't be a ticket to be had, whereas you wouldn't be able to just log on to the portal. I know I'm probably bringing up bad memories for people when I talk about the portal from 2012 and 2016. I know people spent hours and days on the portal. Well, it's still there, even though we're not on it anymore. But I was just amazed. I was looking at what tickets were actually available, and this ticket was very easy to get. Actually, I know an Irish fan, Pat, many of you know him, he's London Irish, and he's actually there tonight. But his mother is Spanish, and he has a lot of links to Spain as well. So he's going to all the Spain games in Seville. He's gone for a nice little holiday there. I'm not jealous, Pat, honestly.
He's
wide.
What a miss.
Oh, that's his Chelsea
Great ball to put him in. Who put him in there? Let's see the replay here. It's 0-0 for anyone joining us. 37th minute. Spain and Sweden. Oh, the defender makes
defender there.
Oh, he should have hit the target.
Jordi Alba
put it in. Yeah, it's a lovely ball.
Lovely ball. The Sweden defender got away with one there. I'd say he's being a massive sigh of relief.
Yeah, the angle in which Morata's at there from the camera angle, he needs to get more across that ball. Like.
Yeah.
He is prone to it. I would say.
He doesn't convince me. I know he's been at Real Madrid, he's been at Chelsea, he's been in Italy, Juve and everything.
Atletico.
He's been at the top. Yeah, he's been in a lot of top clubs, but he just doesn't convince me. And I will go back again. I saw him. He played
under 19
against Ireland.
Yeah.
Under 19s exactly in Romania, and he was the star of that tournament.
Yeah.
And Spain actually battered us in the semi-final. I think it was something like 5-1. But he was the star of the tournament, leading goal scorer, and looked world class. But he just hasn't convinced me in men's football. I'm certainly very impressed with him in that tournament. See Spain on another attack here, but it's a weak enough effort. Yeah.
David says, imagine he's right. I paid 600 quid for a pair of tickets for Sweden game 2016 and I was sitting up with the gods. Great day though to see Wes score live.
That was a brilliant atmosphere. Thousands of Swedes.
Not that it matters because we still got out the group. That's a game we should have won.
Yeah, we should have won.
Hendrick at the bar.
Hendrick at the bar in the first half. That's right. Yeah.
And just an OG gave them the equaliser.
Yeah, it's kind of typical Ireland. Like, we were brilliant until we went 1-0 up with Wes going. Then we kind of stepped back a little bit, and bit by bit. Like I remember, I was at the game. Like you finally found yourself watching the clock because you kind of just felt that like, are we even going to see this out? But as you say, like it was an OG in the end from Kieran Clark after Slatten's cross into the box. But no, overall in general, like it was the only time I've ever seen Ireland in a major tournament. For me, it still stands up as one of the highlights of my life. It was an unbelievable day, unbelievable couple of days over in Paris that time.
I wish I was at the tournament. I was over in Thailand, watching it in bars in Thailand. There was a lot of Irish over there, so it was great. Like serious buzz, but obviously not the same as being there. Noel says, I reckon Gary is the only sports reporter who uses the adjective delicious.
Well,
I used
maybe
it
I
the
am
night
old,
actually.
but I think it's a good one. I don't know. Maybe
I
I am.
actually used it the night at the Long for Pats match for Pats' third goal when Dara Burns put the cross in for Ronald Coughlin. I actually described it as a delicious cross. So maybe you're rubbing off me, Gary.
I see no harm in it. I don't think no.
Oh yeah, I think it's a great way to describe it. Just
Yeah.
mix it up, like.
I think no likes
Sweden
it.
are in here.
Oh,
Sweden are in here.
Oh, he sorts his feet out.
Oh, great tackle.
Oh, off the
Oh,
post.
it's off the post. Wow.
Deflected onto the
saves it.
post.
Keeper caught it then on the rebound.
Yeah.
Good defended.
I don't know if that he did not mean to kick that off the post into the keeper's hands.
No, he blocked the ball.
Okay. I think they got lucky there.
Yeah, it looked like he blocked into the post and then it rebounded into the goalkeeper's hands.
Yeah, I think it was a stroke of luck there for
because
Spain.
he struggled to get the first shot off.
Yeah.
It's been it's been busy in this game, but
Sweden are going into it a bit more confidence. It was
off the ball.
It was Lorente, the guy that Liam Brady thought to play for Leeds, that deflected onto the post.
If Liam Brady hears you talking bad about me, he'd be able to get you.
I'll leave it to you to intune for the channel. So
yeah.
Well, again, I should say
he won't come back on.
So it was just great.
He never wants to come back on until I ask him.
It was great to get him the one time.
Yeah, true. Love to do a documentary on him and his career. It'd be class.
Yeah. One of my just with that fat mate I work with who's an England fan, he just texted me there. Actually, this is 1-0 Sweden written all over it. Could be. It does maybe have shades. Remember that game when Switzerland bet Spain 1-0 to open the game in 2010 World Cup? It could be one of them.
What were you going to say?
And actually, yeah, I lost my train of thought there for a second. It is important that Spain actually do win this game. The runners-up in this group actually play the runners-up in England's group. So it would be ironic if England finished runners-up and ended up playing Spain, and then the winners of that would face France. But there is a school of thought that England should look at getting runners-up and possibly face Sweden. But the downside of that is they would actually play Sweden in Copenhagen, which is just across the bridge from Sweden. And I would imagine there'd be a massive Swedish presence if Sweden end up. So Sweden may well prefer to be second in the group rather than win the group. Because I'm sure Sweden would love to have a game in Copenhagen, which would be like a home game for them.
Who do the winners of this group face in the round of 16?
They have one of the third place teams in Glasgow, so it should be a handy enough one.
Yeah.
And then I
just because you were talking about Copenhagen there, so I just think it would be a good point just to talk about obviously the situation with Christian Eriksen. Obviously it's came out since he had a heart attack on the pitch, but just the way UEFA handled the thing, I thought that was a shit show. And the fact that they made them play, I know Peter Schmeichel's been quite strong in terms of what he's came out and said. They basically said if he's don't play, he's going to lose 3-0. Which is absolute bullshit. Like, you think someone like, you think in those types of situations some compassion should be shown, and some empathy shown. Some of them players like Kjaer and Schmeichel, they've been playing with him for years, and they've been quite close mates and shared lots of good memories during the World Cup and stuff like that. Good
save by the keeper there, yeah.
And it was all those types of things. And then they were forced to play. I think Kjaer actually came off after a while and said he couldn't continue any longer. Like, and obviously he was a huge hero of the day, and absolute legend. Fair play to him. But what did you just make of the whole situation? I suppose I'll start with you, Gary, and I'll get your thoughts then after, Jer.
Yeah, well, first of all, I mean, it's just unimaginable and horrific, and I'm just glad to see Christian Eriksen is still with us. And I really fear the worst. I was watching it live on TV, and I really fear the worst even when he dropped. And then as things went on, I thought, oh my God, this is just horrific. So I'm delighted it appears to be okay, and hopefully we'll make a full recovery, and we'll hopefully have a long and happy life after this. I don't think we'll ever see him on a football pitch again, but that's very much secondary at this point. Yeah, so I'm amazed that the the game did continue, I expected it to be abandoned. And I know UEFA put out a statement saying the players wanted to play, but I'm not so sure. I think it seems like now the Danes are saying they were given two choices: either they play that night or they play at 12 o'clock on Sunday. So look, I'm not surprised they were beaten. Their heads couldn't have been in the right place or anything like that. And I know from someone watching the game at the start, I was hoping Finland would win just as the underdog and wishing them well. But of course, everybody probably wanted Denmark to win, given what happened and all that. But and I think it is a shame from a Finnish point of view. It's their greatest ever day, but they can't really talk about it or celebrate it or anything, given the circumstances, and it probably won't feel the same. But it's a strange one, and I think it would have been better not to play the game and just called it a 0-0 draw.
Yeah, Jer, what was your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I think that scenario then would have probably suited both parties a 0-0 draw. I think both of them would have probably fancied chances of beating Russia and getting through. But yeah, it was a weird one. To be honest, I wasn't actually fully aware of what was going on at the time because I was going to Longford Pat Saturday evening, and my plan was to leave at half time that game. So that was the 42nd minute. So I was just kind of packing my stuff and kind of getting ready. And like I didn't when I went down, I just didn't kind of pass much heat. I thought it was just a player gone down injured. So I was right, I'll get all my stuff. And then I seen he was getting a lot of attention. I was kind of thinking, this must be a serious injury. There must be a stretcher or a leg break or something like that. And then when they started flashing to the crowd and the players started crying, I was like, instantly I started thinking back to Faris Mwamba. I was thinking, no, this is something's not right here. But just frightening and scary. It was one of the most horrific, horrifying, toughest, scariest things I think I've ever watched on TV. It had me in tears before I headed off for Longford. It was just so scary. I thought he was a goner by all accounts. He was until he was brought back to life. So sad. Like as Gary just said, I think we're all just delighted he's awake. Like when I heard on the radio that he was stable and awake, like it kind of felt like a weight off his shoulders and it kind of nearly put a smile on your face. And hopefully he can be discharged the next couple of days to make a full recovery. I think, as Gary said, I think in terms of his playing career, I think that is the end of it, unfortunately. What fantastic football. And he was having a great game as well. I thought he was running the show for Denmark, who in general looked a better team until that moment. And they're a team I actually tipped. I thought they could do really well and be a dark horse in this tournament. And that was a game I would fancy to win, and how much that's going to affect them going forward. It's hard to know. Is football even a priority for them? Is it a case of just seeing out the tournament, which is very well could be? And same as Gary, like it's a bittersweet feeling for the Finns. Obviously, Eriksen is the most important priority, but that's a day they've been waiting for forever and for ages to win their first ever game in a major tournament and their first ever outing. But it can never be remembered for that, like, and it's been taken away. It's a bittersweet feeling. But look, main thing is Eriksen is alive, and like I said, I agree with you. I think the whole handling from UEFA. I think if it's given potential, like I said, I've seen that comment from Schmeichel on ITV. If that was an option, apparently, if you don't play this game tonight or tomorrow at 3-0 forfeit, like where does common sense, a bit of respect, a bit of decency come into play? Like just shambles, really.
Yeah, I think that's what you're dealing with, unfortunately, with these big organisations like FIFA and UEFA and so on. It's all money. That's all they really seem to care about. I feel sorry for Eriksen because he left Spurs, was it last January, to join Inter Milan. Just won the league with Inter, and it was probably that's why he left. He probably won the league at a decent time, and considering if you look at it now, but he obviously left Spurs to try and win trophies and go on to finish his career quite strongly. But obviously now, the fact that he's had that heart attack. I saw someone in the comments just there saying it was incredible if he had a heart condition that didn't come up in a medical. Sometimes it just doesn't show up. Sometimes you just don't know till things like this happen. I know from my own personal experience, my dad had something similar. We didn't know there was any sort of heart condition, and then all our family had to get checked out, and they all had to get something done, whether it was heart bypass or stents or whatever, which none of them would have known had he not passed away. So there's it's sometimes you just don't know that these conditions are out there. But look, the biggest and best thing about it was the fact that he was brought back to life. He was back in a stable, or he is back in a stable condition, and obviously he's getting checked and everything seems quite normal now, and he'll probably hopefully go on to live a happy life and stuff like that. And maybe he could stay involved in football. He'll probably be given a coaching role somewhere. But I think, yeah, as you say, playing days will be over, and you can kind of understand why. But as I say, it's just fantastic to see him still alive, still with us, and I think the whole footballing world, whatever rivalries you may have, I know he came to Dublin and made a show of us in the World Cup playoffs and whatever, but look, you can't hold a grudge against a good player just because he's on the field doing his job, scoring goals for us. I've always liked Christian Eriksen as a player, and I think, as I said, I think everybody was just happy to see him pull through. And yeah, it's just it's really, really unfortunate for Denmark because he's their go-to player and they're playing the rest of the tournament without him. I expect them not to get out of the group now, because of that. But hopefully they take it the other way and they say they're going to do it for Eriksen, and maybe that might give them that extra bite and maybe go on and do it, which I'd be happy about as well.
I also thought it was horrific the way the cameras stayed on the incident. I really think they should have cut away.
I didn't see that. So what exactly happened? Because they didn't show replays, obviously.
So what happened was basically
afterwards,
after he dropped. So he was obviously getting.
I mean that they didn't show replays afterwards. So I wasn't watching it live, so I didn't see any of this.
So basically, there was just a throw in went to him, and the ball seemed to bounce off him, and he just collapsed. But then the cameras stayed there, so he was clearly in serious distress. The defibrillator was used. You could see there was CPR being performed, and the Danish players made a circle around him, basically to stop people being able to see. In fact, they were given a couple of flags by Finnish fans, so they held a couple of Finnish flags around to actually try and keep out the cameras and the media. And then even the camera panned to his partner, and she was obviously in bits. And I think it was Schmeichel and Kerr were actually consoling her. And I just thought it was horrific stuff. And I think there was no need for it to be shown on TV. I really wish they'd just cut and gone back to studio or just gone off air, because it shouldn't have happened. It wasn't football. And I just thought it was way too intrusive. And it was actually great to see the whole squad try and block out the cameras, but that shouldn't have needed to be done either. And as I said, I don't think there's any way that game should have gone on afterwards. And I'm not surprised Denmark were beaten given the circumstances.
Jerry, have you anything to add onto that?
Yeah, just even like when Gary was saying, like I was watching the game on RT at the time. And even when they went back to like Liam Brady and Damien Duff in the studio, like they still were showing the scenes. I know at this stage the players had formed the shield around it, but they're still showing the park and saying, like, why weren't they showing the art he was doing? Now, I could tell by the way Duff and Brady were talking, they were very emotional themselves. Maybe that's something to, I don't know. Now, the cameras, it was UEFA, they were providing the feed for everyone. Apparently it was the same with BBC and everyone else like that. But yeah, it's just like really kind of just not necessary. Like, and that's just tough things for people to watch as well. And I also just feel sorry for Højbjerg as well, because he had the chance to give them something to cherish from the day with that penalty and get at least a draw, and he missed as well. And that's obviously going to be something tough for him as well. And look, it's hard to know. I think it's probably going to help them a little bit. Like, at least the remaining 2 games are in Copenhagen. They don't have to go through the hassle of traveling and stuff like that as well. Now they have to go back to seeing the prime again, but the home fans are going to be there, and maybe it might be a source of motivation. But I'm the same as well. I can't see them taking anything off Belgium on Thursday night, and then they're going to be relying against a win against Russia, which I think they're capable of, but then it's going to be other scores to see if they can get through as a third place team, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah, I suppose even if they lose, if they had a narrow defeat against Belgium, if they do beat Russia, you probably would expect Russia to beat Finland. So you could end up with Belgium on 9 points and the other 3 on 3 points, and you could get through that way on the goals between the teams. It would actually be the 3-way head-to-head then, actually, so the Belgium results wouldn't matter. And lost 1-0 to Finland, if they could beat Russia 2-1 or something like that, or 2-0, it probably would be enough to go through. Yeah. But it's going to be very difficult for them with the circumstances and everything. It's hard to see how those players can get themselves up for it.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. And as you say, Jared, Damien Duff was nearly crying, as was Liam Brady. Liam Brady was actually quite positive. He said, the fact that he was sitting up kind of gave him some hope. And then obviously in the end he was right. So happy days in that regard that he was okay. It's still I'd be going mad if I was a Denmark fan, the fact of what's happened. Like, look, you can't control it, but it'd be like I'm not going to use Ireland as an example, but it would be like Wales losing Gareth Bale. That would be the equivalent of Denmark losing Eriksen, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, anyway, half-time here in Spain-Sweden game, and it's 0-0. Not a whole lot going on from a goal point of view, but I mean, both sides have had chances, haven't they?
Yeah, I mean, more so Spain, but yeah, Sweden have had the odd chance as well. Still probably would have expected better from Spain. Maybe we'll see it in the second half. But that Morata chance was one that I think Del Rui really should have hit the target. But a couple of good saves from the Swedish goalkeeper as well. And a lucky escape for Spain when, was it Llorente just deflected a shot onto the post and into the keeper's hands. That could easily have gone in, you know.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, you could kind of tell the really frustration Spain this game, Sweden. Like they're on about here and on the panel, Brady and Dieter Herman about the Swedish wall, and like same as kind of Gary, I would have expected more from Spain, despite the fact they have created a couple of chances. But it's clear from frustrating keeping out. Sweden have grown in confidence game, and bit by bit, in that last 5-10 minutes, they have to grow more into the Spanish half, winning the odd few corners. And Isak, very very unlucky not to have put them 1-0 in front. But if it remains this way in 45 minutes time, I think Sweden will be absolutely delighted.
Oh, it would be huge. I mean,
yeah.
The draw would nearly put Sweden in the next round because you really have to fancy Sweden to beat Slovakia. Well, you have to fancy him to beat Slovakia next time.
I fancied Poland today, so you just never.
Well, I fancied Poland as well, but I don't think that Slovakia side is that great anyway. I think Poland just really underperformed today, and I think Sweden will take care of them on Friday. But it's a long way to go, and I still wouldn't be surprised if Spain went on and won this by a couple of goals in the end.
Yeah, I'd still fancy Spain to win the game. I agree with you on that one, Gary. Like, they still have a couple of good players been off the bench. I mentioned already, like Adama Traore, Thiago as well from Liverpool. The one player I'm interested in see as well, because obviously his heroics with Villarreal and win the Europa League, if he gets to run out, is Gerard Moreno as well. He really impressed me as well. So I'd still fancy Spain will find a way to win this game in the second half.
One amazing stat actually on this Spanish squad, there's no Real Madrid player. It's just unbelievable that Spain would go to a major tournament without a Real Madrid player. Obviously, there's Sergio Ramos and the controversy with him being left out, but he hasn't had a lot of game time in recent months. But to think that Luis Enrique has picked a squad of 26 players and
24 players,
and not picked anyone from Real Madrid is just unbelievable. Yeah.
And like even you look at someone like Carvajal, who's class right back as well.
Yeah.
I wonder how he didn't get into the squad. But what was I going to say? I think the longer this stays 0-0, I think it actually favours Sweden to nick it. If Spain can come out in the second half and get a couple of goals, then yeah, I think they'll win it comfortably. But I think it's all about who gets that first goal, if there is a first goal. You'd like to think there was, based on the evidence of the first half, both teams are going for it and they have had chances but just haven't been able to put the ball in the net yet. So yeah, it makes for interesting viewing.
Some incentive for Sweden if they could nick it. I mean, to win this group, you play one of the third place teams in the round of 16. Suddenly, you're potentially in the quarterfinals of Euros, and who knows what could happen, you know. You go back to Wales getting to the semi-finals in 2016. So there is the potential for the likes of a Sweden to go really deep in the tournament with one kind of spectacular result if they could nick one game tonight. But I'm still not. You never know. They could win it 1-0, but I still kind of expect Spain to do it.
Just even on that, like playing the third place teams, you just never know what it can kind of throw up. Like look at Portugal the last time around; they finished third in their group and they win the tournament. I think Croatia actually bet Spain in that group to finish top, and then Portugal knocked them out. So it's just one of those you never. I know you're saying likely they probably will get a weaker opposition, but it's funny. You just never know how these group stages can go. Like,
well, there is, and I was saying earlier, all right, it's true that definitely from Group F, if a third place team comes through, and now that would mean they probably all would have to beat Hungary, but yeah, you'd nearly expect that. But it will be difficult to beat Hungary in Budapest in front of 50,000 fans. But the third place team that comes out of that group between France, Portugal and Germany will obviously be a really, really tough draw. I did try and study it, and I did try and even look at it. There is a table there and how it's worked out, and I kind of looked at it and said, okay, after watching Saturday's games, I wouldn't be surprised if Group A, which is Wales's group, does not produce a third place. So I whittled it down to 5, and in a few of the combinations I had, actually Holland as group winners playing the third place from Portugal, Germany and France. So you could end up with Holland-Germany in the round of 16 or Holland-Portugal. That would be a really bad look for the Dutch if that, because you really fancy them to beat Austria and North Macedonia and go on and win their group. And there is a good chance they'll play the third place team from Group F. But it's incredibly complex because there's so many permutations and combinations. And even if you go back to our combination of third place teams from 2016, I think in 9 of the 10 scenarios, we would not have gone to Lyon to play France. But it was just the one combination that saw us going through as third place with the other groups that our group went to. We ended up playing France and Lyon.
Just one thing there, that's do you not think it's so weird and random that Didi Hamann is on RTE? I've always thought it's just so weird, so random.
I found it interesting that the likes of him, Ray Houghton, Liam Braid, who obviously always have traditionally been with RTE, but they haven't been there for the Champions League coverage. They're now back now, obviously, because they're obviously based in the UK, I presume, and they couldn't be flown in and out for Champions League matches. It's kind of clear that they brought them over, put them in hotels and put them up for a month, I would say. But yeah, it is interesting with Dietmar Hamann. But he's been with RTE, I'd say, at least a decade now at this stage, not a bit longer. But I do think he does live in Liverpool. So probably might be able to, with the close distance from Liverpool to Dublin, is probably why he was got here as well. Because remember, Graham Souness used to be on Irish TV a lot as well, between RTE and Virgin Media.
Yeah, but do you not think it's like I just find it weird. Like, I know, look, he won the Champions League with Liverpool, he played for Germany and stuff like that, but you know, of all the pundits they could have got, he doesn't strike me as anyone particularly interested or anything like that.
I like him. Maybe I'm biased.
I like him as well. I think he's
a good pundit.
He's by no means the worst on RTE. I think he's pretty good.
Don't go naming names now, Gary.
No, I won't go naming names, but I liked Graham Souness on RTE as well, actually. I thought Souness has actually got a very good football brain. I know he's very unpopular, and but in certain quarters, but I think he has
is now, because he talks shite now.
Yeah, I think the game has passed him a little bit, to be honest.
Yeah,
but
Hamann, he's just, from here, I end up turning off the telly when he's talking. I'm glad it was on mute there while he was talking, to be honest. But then again, people probably say the same about Brady, so it is what it is.
They do get some good ones for these major tournaments. Like Hope Solo made a couple of appearances the last World Cup. I think probably the most famous of that was Ozzy Ardiles, and was it the 2010 World Cup as well. Yeah, that was a very Brad Friedel as well. I think he made cameo appearance as well. So it's amazing how they still manage to get contacts with these type of people. Like,
well, they should. They're a national broadcaster.
Still, like, it's only a national broadcaster in Ireland where more often than not we're not at a major tournament.
Yeah, because you pay someone enough, they're going to come on and look at their team.
I know Owen Hand has been made quite a few appearances on South African TV for major tournaments. I don't think we've had him
over there, didn't they? So
he did, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
You wouldn't want to be on via Zoom though.
After last year.
Shouting over everyone. No, not that he meant it. He was, because he said it afterwards. He was like, "Oh, tell those lads I'm very sorry. I didn't mean to be talking over them."
I think his connection was getting dodgy as well, so I think it was probably a combination of that.
Yeah.
There's an Irish guy as well, called Tommy Smith, who's been on TV a lot in the States, and I know Americans seem always be surprised that nobody here has ever heard of him, and I've only heard of him because Americans saying, "Oh yeah, this famous Irish guy Tommy Smith we have on TV," and it's, never heard of him, but apparently he's from Louth somewhere, and he's been one of the experts on American TV for years, but he has no profile here, and frankly I wouldn't have known about him if it wasn't for American TV and Americans saying, "Oh, you must know this guy."
To be honest, only until I started listening to the Guardian, Max Russian's podcast, I didn't even realise he used to have an Irish journalist on it who writes for one of the papers of UK's name bypassed me at the moment, but like, he obviously is even of a higher profile, and even I didn't realise that.
Barry Glendenning, is it? Or?
That's the one, I think, yeah.
Yeah.
Very outspoken man.
So, yeah, the Guardian have very good. I read a lot of the stuff online for free, but they have very good coverage for the Euros as well.
Yeah, podcast is brilliant in fairness.
Yeah. And we got Miguel Delaney in the London Independent as well, who I really enjoy. I know he can be very controversial as well, but I think he really knows his stuff as well. So
he's a wreck the hell he is.
See what I mean? So.
Can't please them all, Gary.
I know, but it is each to their own, and if you don't, if you don't like them, you can just mute them or not read them or not watch them or whatever.
That's what I started doing a lot of pundits I'm not fond of anymore. I just can't listen to them anymore.
Who?
I'm watching the game, Paul. I can't be distracted now. Decent free kick in a good area for Sweden. Some crack at this goes in.
You have to fancy a set piece. I know it's probably stereotypical, be the best chance of scoring. Oh God, that's terrible. God. He just fell over.
Then he just lunged in recklessly as well.
Corner, well done.
It's very poor.
Well, now goal kick.
Goal kick, yeah.
It was very poor marking on the free kick.
Yeah. Wicked. Very, very bad.
Someone thinks that Didi Hamann is good. What is wrong with you?
Has he ever broke Everton's hearts? Is that maybe something to do with it?
I just don't like him, to be honest with you. He's just very monotone and bland. So is Brady.
You have to think as well.
My bias to Brady being Irish and probably being our best player ever, or if not top 2 at least.
Yeah.
So.
I know.
Rata, how you missed that?
Even though I was having the pop with somebody earlier, in fairness, I agree with you. You were kind of saying when it comes to analysing the game, maybe half-time full, I think he can be very, very good from that. And I know in general, I would still like Robbie or lean Brady as a pundit and stuff like that. But it's just as you say, he's had maybe 2 or 3 little kind of slip-ups where you just kind of question, did he maybe fully kind of do his research? I know maybe he's getting on in later years and stuff like that. Not that he's an old man or anything else like that, but as you said, he's been paid well enough. Could he not maybe just do a little bit more research, kind of
Yeah, I appreciate that. A lot of people as well are giving out because he likes to say, I don't know too much about them. I seen a lot of that on Twitter yesterday.
Yeah,
he said that about a lot of teams. Macedonia. I know he said it about Dundalk as well. I think in the Arsenal against Dundalk game, was it?
I think, to be honest, not many people would really know much about North Macedonia, in fairness. But again, it's your job. You're there as a pundit. I'm sure if you've done at least 2-3 hours of research, you would know a bit about them. Like I said, their stock has risen. They've qualified for the tournament. They bet Germany.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he could have done at least that and said, look, and go on about Goran Pandev and stuff. Okay, I mean, you can do at least the basics, which you would expect. I think Liam Brady's probably just been on a bit too much on RT at this point. He's been around for too many years, and maybe time just to freshen it up. I think we just lost Paul there for a little bit, but we can keep going.
We'll carry the torch ourselves, Gary.
Okay, Paul Leahy has a comment, and he says, Souness hates Paul Pogba. Well, Paul Pogba is someone... it'd be an interesting one. We're just talking about Souness. Okay. Souness hates Paul Pogba, according to Paul Leahy there. Paul Pogba's got a lot of criticism.
That's my mate.
Oh, is it? Okay. Pogba is a key player for France, and it'll be... I saw another stat, actually, that when N'Golo Kante and Paul Pogba play together for France, they've never lost. And if both of them are fit and firing for this tournament, well, I think Jared and myself already tipped them to win it, but they certainly won't be far away. But it is, I mean, I know he's one that divides opinion among Man United fans as well, because there are times when he can look the best player in the world, and there's times when he just doesn't look interested. So, I think Paul Leahy is certainly right. Graham Souness is definitely not a fan of his, but an interesting one. And Pogba is someone I was actually one of the guys I was going to watch closely enough in this tournament and to see how he does, particularly as he's out of contract. I think, is it in 12 months' time? I think he hasn't signed a new deal at Man United anyway. And I think maybe the club have another year extension. Maybe it's 2 years to go. But I know his contract isn't that far away from being up at United. And if he doesn't sign quickly this summer, wouldn't be. But then I was going to say I wouldn't be surprised if he's off. But then who can afford him in the current state with COVID? I know there's no way United will let him go to a Premier League club. So who can afford him across the continent? Excuse me. So will be an interesting one. And Paul Leahy, I think, just see he's come back and he says 1 year left. So I'll take your word for it, Paul, because that's actually what I thought it was as well. But I think United will probably. Well, is he a United fan, Paul? But yeah, I think it will be a case that United will be under a lot of pressure to sell him. Because
he's a United fan, but he was there when Liverpool were winning the league last year. He seemed to turn towards Liverpool, so make of it what you will.
So a bit like Micheál Martin then, is it? Yeah.
I want to say it's a bit like your mate's child who's divided between Ireland and England at the moment.
Yeah, well, that's I think my mate is a bit concerned because his mother's influence as well, and obviously England are in the major tournament and everything. But I'll tell another one. Yeah, just one more quick one. When we played England in 2013 in Wembley, I remember going up Wembley Way for that. And as you come out of the tube, they were selling half and half scarves. And I tried to just laughed. I said, what idiot would do half and half scarves for a game like this? And he'll be stuck with every single one of them. And by the time I met up with a couple of friends and had a drink or whatever. By the time I got into the away end, I was probably one of the only ones not wearing one. And I was just in shock. And even actually cousins of mine, I have a cousin and she's married to an Englishman. And the 4 kids are brought up. She moved to England, I think, 2021 or something like that. 4 kids have been born in England, brought up in England, and a couple of them actually do support us and a couple support England. But it is kind of, they were wearing the half and half scarves, and I kind of realized then it's easy to say we can see England as our rivals and all that, and those of us without any English blood, but there is so much emigration and everything, so many couples, mixed marriages, whatever else you want to look at it, people with dual heritage, and obviously loads of players who've played for us that could have played for England, and some that made the other choice. But there are people that feel both allegiances, and so maybe it wasn't so surprising to see so many people wear the half and half scarf. Sorry, Ger, I cut you off there.
I think Paul was making a good point there about from the match.
I didn't actually see the penalty shout.
From the Sweden throw in, yeah.
Oh, yeah, but if you were going to say something about something else, carry on.
I know, the only thing I was just going to say was just continuing on from Gary's point about Paul Pogba, was just pretty much that, as you say, like he has shown up for France, like he was fantastic in that 2018 World Cup, and I expect him to go on. Yeah, I thought he had a very good end to the season with Manchester United, and I expect him to kind of carry that in with France kind of going forward. That's all pretty much I had to add there. But I think Gary's point there about the half and half scarves from England again, I thought was stole the light there more so.
Okay.
You've told that story before.
Yeah.
On here.
It's a new one for me. Maybe I wasn't on that watch.
Repeating the stories, but anyway.
It was a new one to me now, so I'll let you off that one.
Yeah, okay.
I'm just saying, I heard it before. That's all.
So
I think it was when we might have been doing something for the England Ireland game earlier in the year or last year.
Back then, or just pre-Christmas.
Yeah, I think that's what it was from. Match preview or something like that.
Yeah. The pass come to nothing.
Yeah, I felt that Swedish lad, is it their centre back that was up for the long throw in there? He looked like he was getting fouled. It should have been a penalty in my opinion. Liam says greetings from Malmo. Hey Liam.
Hi Liam. Be some atmosphere in Sweden if they get a result tonight.
Jay's getting given out to by his dad.
So Liam is someone that could pop up across the bridge to Copenhagen as well if he fancied a match. Possibly Sweden in the round of 16 if they come runners up in the group. So,
to be honest, Gary, when you said how you leaned there, I actually thought you were talking to my father for a second coming in the background, because that's actually his name. But
I didn't know that.
apologies, he just had to check something with me there. So for sure,
Gary did.
You can always say he's made his debut on Irish Football Fan TV.
Okay.
There you go. Paul says, could Troy Parr be the next Robbie Keane? Not getting into that. No, he can't be. He's his own player. What was I going to say?
He's a very different type of player as well. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just the same old. Paul, get a question that someone else hasn't asked before you, because that's what he loves asking. There was something I was going to... Oh, yeah. There was a journalist, actually, an Irish journalist, Philip O'Connor. He's based in Stockholm.
That's right, yeah.
On Twitter. He was actually at the game with Eriksen, and he was on off the ball talking about it. It was really good with John Malloy.
Yeah, he was on 2FM with Dave Fanning yesterday. That's where I actually caught him, because I was coming home from a match yesterday morning, and I caught a good bit of him on that as well. Like, so, yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah.
So actually, it's interesting. He did well to get access, because I don't think any of the Irish journalists have got access to any of the games at Wembley.
He seems to be based over there, because he was on about when Eriksen years ago, Denmark played England in a friendly match, and he was there as well.
Sweden.
Yeah, maybe that could be it. So, because he was on about because all the English journalists were coming up to him, and he who's this small, scrawny, blonde-haired fella, and he knew all about Eriksen. There was this young 19-year-old breaking through at Ajax at the time. So I just presume from that he's obviously. I thought he was based in Denmark, but as Paul points out, he's obviously still based in Scandinavia, but in Sweden. Yeah, because I've seen Dan McDonald has not gone overtime this year. I've seen him say that off the ball as well, that he will be covering this tournament from the luxury of his own house. Yeah,
because normally the likes of Dan McDonald or Paul Lennon and them would have got access to some of the games, particularly, I think it works that, let's say, particularly the England or Scotland games, but because of, I think, COVID and because of social distancing, the press box is obviously more limited as well. So because we didn't qualify and we're not hosting games, I don't think any of them get access to any of the games.
David Walsh says, Traore come on for Spain and rip Sweden apart. Nuno the Wolves, Paul, I know you're underwhelmed, but I reckon he'll do well for you. Yeah, I can see by my face there, I look really happy about that.
I saw you tweeting about that as well, Paul, so probably not your choice to be the next Everton.
Bits, by the way.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
I saw you tweeting. I don't think you're impressed that he could be the next Everton manager. Yeah.
It's probably because I've had too much expectations on managers previous, and they've come in and not do well. Koeman, Martinez, Silva, and then we got one that I really warmed to in Ancelotti, and he left. So
yeah,
I suppose if I don't get my hopes
break
up,
here for Sweden.
One chance for Isaac.
No, it's gone.
Oh, nice touch.
Yeah.
Oh, well done.
Oh, what a miss!
And they should have scored in the end. Scuffed it.
He's acting really well there to make something of that.
Yeah.
Berg at the far post and should have done a lot better.
Russia.
I think he thinks that the defender gets a touch here. So you watch the defender at the back post. Does he? Oh no, it's a shocker.
No, it's just a shocker.
One of the most experienced players.
Yeah, sorry if anyone's just joined us. It's in the 60th minute, and both sides have had chances. Sweden have hit the post as well, and I suppose Spain had some good chances in the first half. Sorry, just go back to what you're saying, Gary. With Nuno, I don't know. He just strikes me as someone that I can't warm to, because just the way he is in his interviews after games and stuff like that, he just always seems to be moaning about stuff and all. He just always seems real aggro. So that's why, if he comes in and does a good job, happy days. But I just don't get my hopes up anymore, because purely when I have, it's just ended in misery. So if I don't have any expectations and he exceeds expectations, then happy days.
I think Carlo is going to be a very tough act to follow, because he obviously is a top manager. And the problem is when he comes in and does well, a club like Real Madrid are going to come calling. I think Nuno's done really, really well.
Do well though.
Well, I thought Everton started last season incredibly well. And it depends what way you can look at it. I mean, wins at Anfield and wins away to Arsenal for the first time in God only knows how long. And I know you'll probably point to terrible home defeats, the likes of Sheffield United and that. So I thought he'd improved Everton, and I thought they would have built on it for next season. You obviously watched them a hell of a lot closer than I do. I'll give you that. I think Nuno's done really well at Wolves. I've looked at that. I mean, certainly he's improved them beyond all recognition. And but yeah, I don't know. I haven't noticed him, but I haven't paid too much attention to his post-match press conferences. I haven't noticed him being that moany or anything like that. But I'm struggling to think of how many times I would have sat down and watched him talk after a game or something like that. So it's hard to tell. But I don't know. I mean, he hasn't got the job yet anyway. But if he does get it, it will be interesting.
It's imminent now at this point.
Because he was linked with Tottenham as well, but that seemed to fall away as well.
And Crystal Palace.
So...
Yeah.
Actually, I think Crystal Palace is probably one to avoid. There's a club that could. It's a big transition, and that's one that could be a problem. Whereas someone like Tottenham or Everton are much more attractive.
Yeah.
I think with Everton, like
the Spurs job.
Yeah, I think like with Everton, like I agree with Gary. I think like the league position in the end was kind of a bit harsh on Everton. I don't think they actually were the 10th best team in the Premier League. I do think they actually were a bit higher than that. Like, it's mad to think that someone like Arsenal finished above them. I know they had the unbelievable start and still they had them sprinkled victories against Arsenal and everything throughout, and the home form disappeared badly. But still thought at times they've had some good football, still produced some good wins. Like, they even bet West Ham towards the end of the season and still looked at that stage they were going to get European football, but still somehow managed to kind of collapse a little bit. But I'd agree, like, I still thought there was enough to suggest that there was signs they were heading in the right direction. If he stayed on next season, you kind of felt, right, they will make that break and get into European football. But yeah, it will be interesting. I like Nuno as a manager. Again, maybe similar to Gary, I wouldn't pass too much heat in his post-match analysis. Now, I think Wolves had a mixed season this year, but they probably maybe slightly overachieved the last couple of seasons. But overall, in general, he's done a fantastic job there. And I think he could go in, and I think he could do a decent job with Everton.
I think the problem is...
Sorry, Paul. I was just going to say I saw David Moyes possibly being linked with it as well, but he ruled that out. But I didn't think he was going to go back. But he's done an incredible job at West Ham and got them into Europe.
It will be Nuno because it's imminent now. And everyone's talking about Murray bringing in players. But the problem I have is it's not so much really with Nuno. It would have been with any of the managers, is that they're going to be working with Marcel Brands. So they're going to have to kind of take the signings that he brings in. I'm not so sure Nuno will do that. I think he will want in his own Portuguese players like he has done at Wolves. Whereas I thought, give the job to someone like Duncan Ferguson, who will work with Marcel Brandt's signings, who has been there at the club. And okay, he might not have the experience, but how is he going to get the experience? You look at all these managers who've been brought in now, Rooney, Lampard, Gerrard, so on and so forth, who've all been given chances at clubs. So I was just thinking, why not give it to Ferguson? He's been under all the previous managers since Moyes, and a bit under Moyes as well, so he's been there the longest. He's the longest serving coach in the Premier League at the minute. So there was all these kind of things. He came in and done well I know, look, it was only 4 games or whatever it was. He came in and he transformed the team back around, and then Carlo came in because, like you were saying there, we had to finish the season and then hope that Carlo could add more players to strengthen that. The fact of the matter is, Carlo and the lure of playing under Carlo Ancelotti, that's gone from the club now as well. So you're going from Carlo Ancelotti, the lure playing for him, to the lure playing under Nuno. Is it going to be as strong? And will he work with the director of football who is bringing in players? Because Alan certainly wasn't a player that Brands was bringing in, even though he's been very good. Doucouré was, and James wasn't either. But you know what I mean. But that's what you're getting. So. Is he willing to work with the director of football, and is he the choice of the director of football, or is he the choice of Mashiri, who just likes to throw money at things? because it's the big shiny new thing. So that's my worry, is that we'll get players and we'll still have players that are a mix of 5 different managers, like we have right now, which, and there's no style of play identified them, and there was no real style of play under Ancelotti either. So it was just kind of backs to the wall and see how it kind of went. So I'm just pessimistic at the moment, if I'm being honest.
The thing is, if you are going to go with Nuno, you really, as you say, you do need to let him pick his own players and probably bring in a few Portuguese players, because I don't like this way when the director of football picks the players and the coach is then given, right, that's what you've got and you've got to make a team out of them. I mean, managers do like to have their own style of football. They do. There are players they like and players they try to bring with them. And I think you do need to give the manager his head like that and let him bring in the players he wants within reason and within budget and everything like that. But I'd be surprised then, though, if he was to accept the job, if it's under those conditions, because he'll be kind of doing it with one hand tied behind his back.
Well, they'd have to agree on the players, obviously. But that's the thing, you don't know what goes on behind closed doors. Like, I don't know if Carlo and Marcel Brands were agreeing on players to bring in and stuff like that, because there was players like Koulibaly who's been linked 2 years in a row, like, who doesn't fit
He's
the
someone,
profile.
Yeah, he's been linked with so many clubs and it just doesn't seem to happen. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Money,
Looks like
the price tag.
Looks like you're not going to get many fancy points from this game now, unfortunately, Paul.
Yeah, well. He's played well, though, to be fair.
Yeah,
Could have had a goal and assist.
He's been a handful, and Spain have been, whatever about their first half form, Spain have been really poor in the second half.
I'll keep him in the team, though, for the next game, because I think he'll score against a poorer opposition.
Yeah. Now, Spain did make a double substitution themselves, so it'll be interesting to see what impact that will have. Marasha and Rodri coming off.
Is the ball over the top?
No, it's too far. We're only 3/4 of the way through the game, and it could well end 0-0 now, the way things are going.
I still think the longer it goes on 0-0, Sweden could nick it.
There is that possibility. You could argue, there's no argument, they have had the better chances or best chance of the second half. Like, and as I mentioned, Spain have really, really been poor in the second half. Like, apart from a shot from Marasha just inside the box that never really looked like trouble in the goal, they haven't done much in the second half.
It doesn't augur well. I mean, saying earlier on, you're looking at the draw and the way things pan out. Spain had a fairly soft route to a quarter-final, if it all panned out. I mean, Sweden, Slovakia, Poland, you'd fancy them to win the group, certainly looking at it from the start. One of the third-place teams in the round of 16, and suddenly you're in a quarter-final. Certainly a lot easier route than a lot of the other countries. But looking at them tonight, I know it's only the first game of the tournament, and you can go back to Portugal in 2016, and they were shocking in the group stages, but it certainly doesn't look like you're watching potential winners tonight anyway.
No.
And there's a Copa America on tonight as well.
There is. There's 2 matches on tonight, yeah. Can't remember who. I know
Argentina and Chile or something, wasn't it? There's a good one at 10 o'clock.
That'd be a game.
Yeah, and there's a Paraguay and
Let me
Bolivia.
check that I got it right. Yeah, Argentina, Chile at 10 o'clock.
And then there's one at 1 o'clock. Is it Paraguay, Bolivia?
That's what we have
too late
here,
for
Gary.
me. That's too late for me, the 1 o'clock one.
That, Gary.
No.
What channel is
1 o'clock?
I think it's... I'm going to check here, but I should know this because I was working earlier today and I was looking through the fixtures. But I think it's Paraguay, Bolivia.
I didn't pay too much attention. Yeah, it is Paraguay, Bolivia at 1 o'clock.
Ah, yes. Well, I guess.
What
station is
the game on it?
The Argentina game is 10 o'clock.
Oh, sweet. I'll be having me dinner then. That's half an hour. Yeah, we'll be finished on this. I skipped dinner to make sure it was on. Yes, I went to the fridge halfway through making dinner and I realised I didn't have any chicken fillets there, so I had to go down to the shop.
What station is the Copa America on?
Someone had it up on Twitter last night. If you go into Sky, go to other channels or something. There's a big thing you can do.
Right.
And it comes. I'll have a look through, and I'll send it to you after this.
Super.
Yeah, I think it's BBC have them all certainly on the iPlayer. I'm not sure if they're actually on regular BBC.
Someone said if you press the red button or something on the iPlayer, it comes up.
Let me see. Yeah, it says BBC red button.
Any tips for that, Gary?
I haven't paid enough attention, Jarno, to make any sort of an educated even prediction or something like that without trotting out the obvious countries. But I haven't even paid attention. So I know Brazil and Argentina, I think, are opposite sides of the draw, but I think you can just get too stereotypical and say the usual ones,
Oh, good block again. Spain, bit by bit now, starting to turn up the screw a little bit more now. Almost should have. It was a good block, in fairness. It's a good strike from him, still the same.
BBC red button's not working for me right now. Well, I'll come back to it at 10 o'clock.
I think you can. Yeah, I think you can check it on Sky. You can tune it in on Sky other channels. I think you can tune in BBC red button.
Kieran says it's on BBC iPlayer.
There is a problem with the BBC iPlayer as well. You need a VPN or something, and it sometimes doesn't work over VPNs.
Just be dodgy and get a Fire Stick.
Yeah.
So
well, I have a Cobain service. If I log into work, so I could just watch on that if I get really desperate. Now I'm working at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. I don't think I think the 10 o'clock game would be a push, if even, to be honest.
Get to watch Messi and Aguero rip it up against Alexis and Vidal.
yeah, there's a bit of needle between Chile and Argentina as well. That would actually be a cracking game. And
you love a bit of needle, don't you?
I do. I love those games. I love the a bit of rivalry in the games, and I actually love. I mean, I was talking earlier about love going to major tournaments. I actually love watching the South American countries in World Cups. I'd much rather go and watch a Chile or an Argentina or a Brazil. Well, obviously, or maybe Brazil and Argentina, but much rather go and watch them rather than Germany, Italy, Spain, or France. If I had the choice, I'd probably go and watch the South American sides.
Would you go to a Copa America?
I'd love to go someday. I've never been. I'd certainly. One thing I would love is actually if we entered it sometime. They always have a couple of foreign. Well, it's not that unrealistic.
Oh no, yeah, I know, yeah.
The likes of Qatar were meant to be in this one, and they've had Japan in it. Yeah, they've had all sorts of countries, and if we didn't, okay, it normally clashes with the Euros, but if we didn't qualify for Euros, we would be maybe a potential candidate to join it. And what a trip that would be for the Irish fans. I'm sure, guys, you'd absolutely love that as an away trip. Copa America would be unreal, wherever in South America it is. Another thing I'd actually love to do, I've read a couple of books about guys that have traveled around South America going to football matches, and I'd love to go to Argentina for a few weeks and just go and watch some football there. It would be absolutely amazing. I did go to Madrid for the Boca River Copa Libertadores final there a couple of years ago, and it was an absolutely insane atmosphere, and it was absolutely brilliant. And I'd love to go and see Boca River and not just that. I mean, some of the other there's some fantastic derbies in Argentina and indeed in Brazil, and go and watch some of those live in the stadium, which I think would be absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I'd love to do that as well.
Yeah, class. I think it definitely is outside the Euros. It is the other major kind of continental tournament. I think that stands out by far. Like,
oh yeah,
Spain,
absolutely.
The crowd with the ultras.
Yeah. It even has a ring of a good documentary to it, Gary going over covering Copa America.
Any sponsors out there want to sponsor me, I'd gladly go. In some ways, actually, the Copa America may not be, I don't know, I don't think it's as good an atmosphere as some of the World Cups. I was at the World Cup in Brazil, and that was absolutely fantastic. And brilliant atmosphere there. Again, from the South American teams, and not just like Brazil, but unfortunately I didn't get to see Argentina, but got to see the likes of Chile and see Ecuador, and the passion from their fans was just something else, you know.
Yeah, what would we say would have been the best major tournament you would have been at that Ireland weren't involved in?
That we weren't involved. Well, I thought Germany 06 was a great tournament, but probably the one I enjoyed the most that we weren't involved in was Brazil 2014, because just from the whole fans and the whole atmosphere, and particularly, I actually started off up in the Northeast. I was based in Natal and went to Fortaleza and went to Recife, but came down to Rio. And probably should have spent more time in Rio because it was absolutely rocking. And I got to games in Sao Paulo and Belo Horizonte as well. And I think once it got down into the more of the hotbeds, the Northeast isn't really a hotbed of Brazilian football. I probably ended up there because of the weather and everything, and it was absolutely beautiful spot. But they probably weren't as passionate about the games up there. But down in the likes of Rio, Sao Paulo, Belo Horizonte, that's the real hotbeds of the Brazilian football. And the atmosphere. I got to see Brazil-Chile in Belo Horizonte, and that was absolutely amazing atmosphere.
Great game as well, yeah.
Yeah, it was a brilliant game. Chile were really unlucky, went to penalties in the end, and that was just something else. That was my last game, actually, of that tournament, and what a way to go home on. And it was absolutely fantastic. And I actually hope, I know we're bidding for the World Cup, and maybe this is not very patriotic, but I actually think the 2030 World Cup should go back to Argentina and Uruguay for the centenary. Uruguay hosted the first one. And I just think another South American World Cup would be absolutely amazing. And if I ruled FIFA, I wouldn't let any of the World Cups go anywhere other than south of Donald Trump's famous wall. So,
don't rule out play football on the beaches in Rio, Gary.
Yeah, we actually I did. It was a family trip. My kids were with me, and we did kick a football on Copacabana Beach, and my daughter actually met Arsene Wenger while I was off at a match as well, and has photos with him and everything. He was just strolling around. Yeah, he was just strolling around Copacabana,
and she knew who he was. She must watch.
Yeah, I was really impressed. Don't watch a huge amount of football. I was really impressed. They knew who he was anyway, and my youngest got a photograph with him.
Definitely their father's daughter, anyway.
Oh, 100%.
They're probably more interested in rugby or hockey, to be honest. But they did. My youngest got a photograph with Arsene Wenger, which is more. I've certainly never met him, but. You actually, you would see at World Cups, especially. I mean, in my case, I was going through a lot of airports. You would get to meet a lot of people or see a lot of people from you as well.
You met Jack Charlton in Italia 90?
Yeah.
Who's the most famous person you met, Gary? Ever?
Oh. I don't know. Is Jack Charlton the most famous?
He isn't this island, I'd say. Like.
I met Bobby Moore when he was in Dublin for an England game, and I mean, he sadly passed away. But I mean, he was obviously a legend of the game. Yeah. Who else? Trapp obviously was.
Where'd you meet him?
Probably. I met him when he was Irish manager. You know, you'd bump into my brother. Actually, was doing a lot of media stuff for Ayr at the time when Trapp was Irish manager. So I got to meet him and Tardelli. Who else?
World Cup winner Tardelli, and was Trapattoni a winner or a winner as manager?
Don't think he won the World Cup, but he won all the major European trophies, and won titles in Germany, Italy, etc. I actually met Cafu in Brazil as well. So
Cafu.
in an airport in Brazil, yeah.
I think that
I-
might just top Jack Charlton.
Yeah.
I
I
would
don't
say
know,
he's
Jack
the
Charlton
famous,
won a
most
World
famous.
Cup, as well,
Yeah, but Cafu was a unreal player.
So,
What a rifle.
Yeah, unreal.
yeah.
Who would you say is the most
Like-
famous person you've met, Paul?
Maybe Gary Neville now. Maybe. Rio. When you say met as in got a picture or just were around them?
Kind of around, or even maybe got to chat to them or something like that. Like,
Probably those two.
Yeah.
Neville or Roy Keane. Probably those. I was never really close to other players like that or anything like that. I hope further down the line I'll meet players like like the Brazilian Ronaldo Fenomeno. I'd love to meet him, and I'd love to meet Zidane. So put it this way, any of the famous people are the ones that they aren't the ones that I'd like to meet in the future. Like I'd love to meet Messi one day. But yeah, what about yourself?
I'd say it's probably a coin toss between Ray Houghton or Kevin Sheedy. I'd probably slightly give it to Sheedy because I think I've actually had some form of a conversation where Ray Houghton was just a case of saying hello and who I was that time in Dundalk, or like where Sheedy that time after the match in Chicora a couple of months ago, we actually got to talk to him for a bit. But both of them for me equal status because they both scored for England against England in major tournaments for Ireland. So I know everyone always remembers Ray Houghton's goal, who put the ball in the English net, but Kevin Sheedy scored our first ever goal of the World Cup, and to be against England, I think it's just equally as impressive.
Yeah, well, you need to start meeting more people if they're the only two that are most famous for you.
Still big names in the game of football. Still hold a lot of authority here in Ireland. I met Jan Mulvey over in Liverpool before, but don't get me wrong, a very, very good player in his day. But I'm not sure. You probably might know this more, Gary. Like, where would he rank in terms of Liverpool's all-time greats?
I wouldn't. I mean, he was a lovely passer of the ball, but I wouldn't have him in the all-time greats now. I don't think he was that good now.
The only thing I was very impressed when he asked, it was just myself and my dad, we met him over, like, it was a Legends kind of tour, and he was a legend for the day. He just asked us, like, where in Ireland we were from, and we said we're Scotland. Oh yeah, I've been there for the racetrack. So I was very impressed he actually knew even what part of Ireland I was from. Yeah.
My dad actually, my dad went to the '74 World Cup, and he actually met Pele, and he got Pele's autograph. I'm not sure if it's he brought it home to me. I was only 7 at the time, and it's probably still there somewhere. And then my sister, I've never met Pele, but my sister was working in the pharmaceutical industry, and you may remember Pele was heavily involved at one point, and she got to meet him at some event in London, maybe 15, 20 years ago as well. And I'm pretty sure she actually got his autograph as well. But I certainly never got to meet him.
Yeah,
I think that would top everything. Yeah.
I actually met Michael Owen. Well, I met Michael Owen after an Everton Stoke game, and Seamus Coleman was chatting to us for the first time there. And it was a year after my dad had passed, and there's a plaque down in Goodison. And we were standing there talking to Seamus and his brother for like me and a couple of mates. We were there for like 20 minutes to half an hour. And Michael Owen came by. He was playing for Stoke at the time, but he wasn't playing that match, or he came on as sub maybe. And we stopped to get a photo with him. And Seamus was like, "Oh, right, lads. Well, if you want to get a picture of him, we'll leave his tour or something." And he was just so nice about it. Went over, got the picture with Michael Owen, and they just left him, and we went straight back over to Seamus Coleman. But you'd forget that he won a Ballon d'Or,
Yeah, 2001.
Yeah.
I don't know about really what clashes in the category of met, but I was slightly in the presence of that Liverpool game just before COVID last year, played Sheffield United, and Fabinho was actually injured at the time, and he just parked his car and actually walked past me. But I didn't really exchange much of a hello him, as he was kind of fairly swabbed by a lot of other people wanting to get photos with him.
Now, like, I've met loads of Everton players and loads of Ireland players and stuff like that, but they wouldn't be the calibre of just maybe Neville and what Rio have achieved in the game,
Yeah.
What was it? My dad met Maradona when he came over here, and was it the 80s, Gary? You'd remember.
Yeah, he was here, and I was at the game in 1980. Actually, he played against us in Dublin. But he'd already become a bit of a star at that point. He actually played half of the game in '79 as well. And
well, one of the games, my dad's man managed to meet him walking out, and he got, like you said, I think it was about. Did you say it was your dad? Got an autograph, and he had it brought back to the house. Apparently, it's still in my nan's attic, but we've never found it. So he was lucky enough to meet Maradona, which is one that obviously we'll never get to do because unfortunately he passed away.
Yeah. Maradona for me was the greatest of all time. I still reckon he was the best player, certainly the best I've ever seen, and for me, the greatest footballer of all time. I would have loved to have met him. Yeah,
I hear a lot of people say that Messi's better than him now. So like Gary Lineker's always saying it.
Yeah, I think. It's opinions, and I mean it's hard to judge players from different eras. I mean, Messi does have a lot more protection from referees and all these. I mean, the tackles Maradona had to put up with. It was just football was a lot more brutal in the 80s and the 90s. Yeah, but and I go back to the World Cup, particularly in '86. That Maradona virtually won that on his own. And in 1990, he dragged Argentina, a very poor Argentina, all the way to the final. And just for me, he's done it more on the world stage. Now, I know you can say Messi's won so many Champions Leagues, etc., but he hasn't won a World Cup. And it's very unlikely he's going to win one now, although I suppose you can't rule Argentina out next year.
Only other thing as well, like obviously I can't, good chance. I can't obviously say much. I've never seen him in the flesh, but like Messi's played with a club in Barcelona that has a tradition of winning the big prizes. Like Maradona went to Napoli that doesn't have that tradition, and he dragged them to like league titles as well and stuff like that. He kind of brought a team from nowhere, where Messi, and even I put Cristiano Ronaldo in this, he's been with clubs already that has steam of winning stuff like. So even for that reason as well, obviously without seeing him in the flesh, I'd also go for Maradona based on stats like.
I think most Argentinians would probably go for Maradona as well.
Yeah.
Which can say a lot, obviously, because both of them are products of and superstars from that country. But as I said, it can be very difficult. I mean, how do you compare Pelé with Maradona? Even they were different eras. I know people will talk about the likes of Di Stefano, George Best. You have Ronaldo and Messi. Even you get lots of different opinions of which of them is the best as well, and they're in the same era, and that can provoke a whole other debate. But for me, I mean, it is down to opinion, it's down to personal taste, and for me, it's got to be Maradona.
Ole, 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 Diego. Did you ever see this documentary with the Boca fans?
Oh yeah,
that's class. Great save.
It's a great save, great chance.
I think it was Moreno.
We're in the 90th minute now and it's still scoreless.
Time was ticking. A great point for Sweden.
Absolutely brilliant point for them.
Two unexpected results from this group, if it stays this way from today.
Yeah, it's not over yet. Another chance here.
And away. Keeper.
Leave it for the keeper, yeah.
6 minutes at a time, wow.
Oh, I don't know where that's come from. You just kind of get the feeling Sweden are hanging on a little bit now, which hadn't been the case for
the last few minutes. Yeah, big time.
Yeah.
Why is there 6 minutes added on? Was there something we missed? Where there was, like
there was a Swedish
there was players down too.
Just
not that long though, was it?
No, it didn't
seem
like,
that long. Yeah.
But I suppose maybe there has been a couple of substitutions. So, but still, 6 minutes does seem a bit stretched now. I would have said maybe 4 at most.
Yeah.
But it'll be interesting to see can they make the most of it now.
I thought Slovakia-Poland today, there was only 4 minutes, and I thought there could easily have been a couple more, and then Slovakia made a substitution in the 4 minutes, and the ref still seemed to blow it up before the 4 minutes were up. So I don't know if the Poles are a bit aggrieved about that.
Oh, that's wide.
Another effort there, going to go a bit wide.
Yeah.
It's good crack though. I do like these watch-alongs, like especially when it's just something kind of fun like this and not mad serious. Because usually when we're talking about Irish stuff, it's usually quite serious or whatever. So we do these as kind of light-hearted and fun. You can talk about other things other than Irish football, for example, like your favorite player, who the most famous player you've ever met. Before we did like our all-time 11s and stuff like that. But yeah, the beauty of these tournaments is like so many football fans are born because of these tournaments. Like, and this is probably could be a good topic as well. It's like, what was the tournament that made you fall in love with football? For me, it was France '98. I didn't really watch football before then, and I started watching that, and I really took a liking to Holland in that tournament. I remember Patrick Kluivert scored the equaliser against Brazil, and Brazil obviously had Ronaldo, Roberto Carlos, Rivaldo, your mate Cafu, Gary, Taffarel in goals, and he saved the penalty in the end, I think, to break my heart at the time. And then it was just from there the football drug was born. I think my dad started bringing me to Ireland games. I think it was the first game after the World Cup. We played Croatia. That was my first in '98. That was my first game. Here's Alba in the box.
Should have done better. Yeah,
I don't think he knew much about it.
Yeah, kind of bounced off his leg.
Yeah.
But what was the tournament? I'm gonna go to Jer first because yours is probably way back, Gary. No offense.
I'm trying to be brief enough because we only got about 3 minutes of injury time left in this one. But I suppose the easy answer would be the 2002 World Cup, because it's the earliest memory I have of a major tournament, and the fact that Ireland were there, and it was I know there was a whole controversy with Roy Keane, but in general it was a reasonably good tournament for Ireland. But I would probably actually go with Euro 2004 because I didn't actually really know what was fully going on as a 6-year-old child and tournament structures in 2002. I didn't even know what it meant when we bet Saudi Arabia 3-0. I thought we actually won the bloody thing. Never mind, made the last 16. But no, by Euro 2008, I knew exactly what was going on with the tournament structures. And I thought as well it was an unbelievable tournament. I know people might say, oh, Greece, like they weren't pretty to watch and they won it. But that quarter, that was first and foremost the England-France group game when France stole at the death. Then the quarter-final between England and Portugal that went to penalties. The Czechs were a great team to watch back then. The Dutch were as well. Portuguese, I just thought it was a brilliant tournament. You had silver, gold, so that's the tournament for me that stands out the most. That obviously, along with 2002.
I was actually over in Portugal for Euro 2004. It was a great tournament. Gary,
It was an unbelievable tournament, yeah.
So for me, I mean, I was growing up, I'm 54, so back in the 70s, there was very little football on TV. I mean, we were in Limerick and there was only one channel, which was RTE, and they only showed GA and horse racing and their sport. But they did show the English FA Cup final. They normally show the European finals, and they showed the World Cups and the Euros. Well, they didn't even show the Euros, actually, but the 74 World Cup was the first time. I was 7, and I sat down, and as I said, my dad was at the tournament. Yeah, my dad went to the 74 World Cup with 3 friends, and they went stayed right to the final. And so I was fascinated by it. I watched every match that was on. And I was probably the only one that wanted the Germans to win it, because that was the famous Dutch team. And looking back now, I probably would have wanted the Dutch to win it. But for whatever reason, I got just fell in love with Gerd Muller and Franz Beckenbauer and Wolfgang Overath, Dieter Hoeneß, and it was absolutely it was a superb German team as well, but the Dutch probably were just too arrogant or too unlucky not to win it. And but it was a fantastic tournament, and that's probably what got me hooked on football. And although I was already going to watch Limerick at that stage, but the fact to have football on every day on TV was just amazing at that stage, because you'd never have football. We didn't even have match of the day in those days.
That's why I think it's class, because you always get people, everyone's story is different, how they start watching football or whatever. Obviously, we were watching it before that, but that was the tournament that kind of got you hooked. Whereas, like, I remember then after Holland were knocked out, like, I just fell in love with Zidane. I absolutely love Zidane. He was just so good. And then obviously went to Real Madrid not long after that, and he was just unreal. If you're a young kid watching this video right now, and just go and watch Zinedine Zidane. Another player who was absolutely class, but he was a little bit further on for me. I wasn't as much as the kid when I got to see Ronaldinho, who came through, and he was just unreal. He was so good. I know a lot of kids who like football, probably younger than Jer, would all say, Ronaldinho is someone who they when they grew up they wanted to be like. I think a few of the Irish internationals said it on international duty there in that video.
Around 2005, 2006, he was just out of this world. Actually, but I remember an interview with him, and people were saying, "Are you the best player in the world?" And we think you're the best player in the world. He says, "I'm not even the best player at Barcelona." And he was actually talking about Messi at the time, who wasn't really. I mean, I remember going to the 2006 World Cup and going to watch Argentina play the opening match in Hamburg. And I was really hoping Messi would play because I wanted to see him. And unfortunately, he didn't make the starting 11. And but so there was kind of mentions about him, but it took another probably year or two before he really came to the fore.
Well, the match is over. I'm starving, so I'm going to get off and have some dinner. But huge thanks to everyone who joined us in the comments. We'll hope to have a few more of these. Not every night, but every couple of nights we'll hope to have some watch-alongs and just going to get involved. So get on to us in the comments, join in, and huge thanks to Gary and Jer for joining as well.
No worries.
Thanks, guys.